Leviathan Metals is one of the best performing stocks uh, out of the companies that I talk about on this YouTube channel. And I'm sitting down with Luke Norman to discuss the progress and what people can expect. So, Luke, thank you very much for joining me.
Yeah, thank you, Mariusz.
This video has been disseminated on behalf of Leviathan Metals. Well, first, I wanted to say thank you for allowing all of us to be part of this story, because I think everybody now is happy. Everybody is always happy when the stock price is performing well, and Leviathan Metals stock is performing well. So maybe before you give us an update, what is going on? Because it's like 10x in 1 year.
Yeah, look, I think it's just a combination of people appreciating the fact that we're heading towards probably what's going to be the most critical and developmental metal in the coming next 10 years. You know, that pivot and that shift that both Jeremy Crozier and myself recognized half a decade ago, which was get into a tier one copper development type project or asset. Culminating with obviously luck of timing with the market meeting us. Another, luck is a relative word, but yeah, I think we've been pretty focused in on getting into this copper space and very good timing.
You had a press release to the market updating what 2025 was, what you've accomplished, and also what you're going to do. And from the investor's point of view, everybody wants to know, when are we going to start drilling? What's coming in 2026? So can you touch on that maybe?
Certainly. Well, let's get right into obviously Central, which is our core asset or our flagship asset within the Kalahari Copper Belt. Again, just to recap, it sits right beside, one of the lowest cost copper producers on the planet. We're now just getting into a final phase of geophysics. Why? Because geophysics is all important to the model of exploration that we're following. Now, this is not a model that's derived by us as a company. It's a model that's proven and resulted in a multi-billion-dollar copper mining operation next door to us. And the model is very clear. You do certain levels of geophysics, you track down certain traps of fluids within the domal districts within that region, and ultimately that's what you drill for. Now, again, to recap, is very shallow mineralization relative to any of the big copper deposits on the planet. People are out there hunting for these big monster copper deposits all through South America, all the way up into Arizona. These things are many miles deep. Well, for us, we're blessed with the opportunity of looking for very enriched copper zones, which are, hundreds of feet deep. So what we don't want to do is waste money exploring with the drill when we can do very inexpensive exploration, pre-exploration with geophysics. So the model within the copper belt we're in is finding these fluid traps, these folds. So we've been concentrating in on that. And in upcoming days, you'll see an announcement from us that we're going to start one final program of geophysics. It's a very short program, and this is not going to take months. This is weeks of interpretation, and we'll have a final data set to go ahead and conduct drilling into what we believe is going to be a repetition of the neighboring deposits. And the neighboring deposits, again, just sold for $1.9 billion a little over a year and a half ago. And since then, more than $700 million has been invested into that project and those assets. And beyond that, when we flew over the project a little over a year ago, there were almost 10 under a year ago, almost 10 drilling along the western border of our project. So we have a lot of excitement coming, I think, in 26.
But do you think you might start drilling, January, February, March? Do you have an estimate of when do you think it will start?
I would guesstimate, I think previously I had indicated to you that, the expectation was to get into it right early. So January, February. I would say March is a very realistic sort of time frame now. We're already in discussion with drilling groups throughout that quadrant of Southern Africa, I'll say, because, we can get South African groups up there, or of course local groups, but we're very far down the line with securing a drill program. But ultimately, this is a drill ready project already. We're just really focusing in now, not wanting to waste money with just drilling to look. You don't use drills to generally, unless you're in very unknown territory. We can use, again, airborne magnetics and other forms of geophysics to better define sort of localized drilling targets.
When we talk, most of the time we focus on the Botswana asset,
Mhm.
but there's also another asset in Botswana, the uranium portfolio.
Yes.
So let's talk a little bit about this for my audience to give them an idea of what that asset is all about.
Yeah, so our asset sits abreast to a known discovery that transacted within, again, the last 18 months, 64 Australian million dollars it was sold for. And we have already known and recognized the down dip extension of that. It was drilled previously by the company we acquired, Cura, which is clearly now us. These are our assets, 100% owned. We are, kind of shocked with how well this project has kind of stood up to, all of our internal due diligence, and then also the level of interest from outsiders wanting to get involved in it. So, we're reticent and understanding of that, but I think in Botswana right now, we're really going to focus in on our core copper assets. We won't go drilling into yet our uranium projects, because we're still entertaining active interest, and actually people wanted a partnership and maybe pay for that drilling. And we're all shareholders of the company, so we want to recognize that value collectively. So why dilute when we've got this very, very big copper opportunity dilute into the uranium assets? So we're in no rush to move. It's a low cost for us on a holding basis. But yeah, we were definitely seeing some interest in them.
So do you think you might partner up with somebody else to do the drilling there?
I wouldn't say I think we will. I think right now I've always been a firm believer in owning things 100% and wanting to move them ahead ourselves. But if it collectively represents a great opportunity for us all as shareholders, we'll consider it. But there is no rush into pursuing our uranium assets when our neighbors are actively pursuing it and kind of further proving up the in situ leaching potential of the project. And here we have this established known extension of their mineralization.
Okay. Now let's move on maybe to your Bosnia's assets, because you
Yes,
you are quite excited about those
very
assets.
much so. Yeah,
But why? Why? What changed? I guess I know you were always excited about them, but your excitement is much higher today than it was maybe 8 months ago.
well, we've just started into a recent program where we're doing some trenching and some sampling there. And as you okay, so just to kind of peel it back a bit, trenching and sampling already indicates the fact that you're seeing mineralization at surface. Now, we have some historic intercepts that came way back from the old Eastern Bloc days, of extremely high. In the press release you saw today, but 13 to 15 meters of, you know, 10% zinc or 13% zinc, sorry, and great, just the ultimate polymetallic kind of results you want to see. Lots of silver, and it weighs up and compares extremely well to Adriatic, which is about 120 kilometers to our north. So we're on the same trend. And what we've done is managed to be a first mover into the Bosnia-Herzegovina region, whereby we have an established foothold. And it's not just a foothold being a particular project within a larger area. We're almost now a regional player. And I know that that's just verbiage and it'll be hard to understand as an investor, but you can own a district and be surrounded by many other district opportunities, or you can own a region. And when you get into the point of time where we are at, where we're regional owners and establishing a regional foothold, and also now moving forward, moving north, we're just very, very excited by it. I mean, look, this is a well-established mining jurisdiction now by way of mining law. Again, a first mover in it, and seeing numbers that correlate over to some of the most established, highest grade polymetallic systems on the planet. Yeah, we've definitely created a lot of excitement around that. And, you know, it's juxtaposed now because really the copper undertaking and the copper projects down in Botswana was planned to be kind of a shift of focus for the company to just, now we're going purely into this whole copper region that we're in, the Kalahari Copper Belt. But Bosnia is just, the light is shining on Bosnia right now and what we're achieving there. So again, in that press release we announced today, the plan is to go and drill both of them because we can. You know, we've got exposed mineralization at surface. We've got historical drill holes in Bosnia that again, compared to the likes of an Adriatic or even what Group 11 are achieving up in Ireland. So what do you do when you've got two in the hand? I think you just, you bite your lip and you pursue both. And so, yeah, shallow drilling, shallow mineralization at both projects. That's hugely important, by the way, to you, any prospective investors or current investors. Shallow projects, the difference is remarkable. You know, I cut my teeth exploring in Nevada, where we were drilling multi-thousand feet holes to try and attempt to find undercover deposits mineralization that we would hope would establish and turn into deposits. So these drill holes down in Nevada were costing us $1 million US. Going into these two jurisdictions, we're talking, you know, $100,000 drill holes at a time, pierce points that could be transformative to the company on multi-levels. So yeah, I'm pretty excited about 2026.
As you know, the price of silver went on a wild run
Yes.
in 2025, and now you're talking about the Bosnian asset that has significant silver. So
Very much.
the price of silver moving up, I suspect it increased your excitement for the project too.
It does, absolutely. I mean, clearly, I mean, I'm a firm believer. I love silver. I have done for forever. You know, silver and gold go hand in hand in terms of my portfolio. So the silver price has been, I won't say, you know, a surprise by any stretch. We all know the ratios and the changes that have occurred between the price of gold running to, you know, $4,500, and silver was so deeply lagging. And traditionally, what we see, Mariusz, in a gold bull cycle is actually silver outpaces gold again, traditionally. And that didn't happen. So silver's having this big resurgence. And I'm a firm believer along the lines of the Eric Sprotts and other large investors that silver's actually on its way to, you know, multi-$100. Really, if it's going to be representative of what it is relative to the price of gold, silver should probably start to encroach into $150, $200 an ounce and beyond. So all of that builds investor excitement, and the institutions starting to see inflows. They're starting to, you know, send money into the juniors finally, which is also another very positive sign. The fact that didn't happen too soon, too early. I went through the 2001 through 2011 bull cycle, and silver really outpaced. As soon as gold touched out of the brown bottom, the $253 an ounce gold price, imagine that. That's what gold was trading at in 2001 to, silver was right on the footsteps and kept moving ahead of gold. So the fact that gold's had this big shift, silver needs to play catch up. Copper is in never ever seen before demand. Copper's going to rip. You want to be in silver, you want to be in copper. We're all already in gold, I imagine. A lot of us are. So yeah, to have two amazing assets in one company where we have exposure to those two metals, the word is leverage.
Now, do you see this dynamics? Because, of course, price of gold went up significantly. Price of silver went up significantly. Copper, not so yet. But now, do you see the situation where people made a lot of money in the gold space, made a lot of money in the silver space, and now they're looking for the copper space to take their winnings and reinvest into something else?
Yep. Well, I think it's even not too early, Mariusz. I think that actually all three are going to work in unison, which quite often, look, historically, copper is, of course, an industrial metal purely, silver being more of a combination of the two. It's an industrial metal and a precious metal, and gold, I think we can secure as primarily just a precious metal. But yeah, copper wouldn't always work in conjunction with the silver and gold market. In this instance, they're going to work together. So, picking your timing and trying to decide which horse to jump from or which bet to parlay to, those bets are off, in my opinion. So, having a company that has exposure to both is awesome. It's kind of a dream come true in this instance. But yeah, I think copper has a huge, huge runway ahead of it.
Okay, so that's interesting. When you say a huge runway, what do you think? $8, $10? What do you
15.
think?
I think
How
it's
much?
going to 15. I think it's going to $15 a pound. And I don't think that's going to be a spike. I think that's going to be the new normal. And we'll start looking at, what the next opportunities are to replace this massive supply and demand separation in the copper industry right now. Making these big discoveries in the Andes and such are great, but it's a 15-year, I'll use the word again, runway from discovery to even close to considering development. Shallower assets like the silver and the golds, even though, look, we all know permitting is a nightmare globally, dependent somewhat on which jurisdiction, but the silver and gold assets can be procured and developed a lot quicker. But copper assets are in short supply, and no pun intended there either. But you're going to see shallow deposits like what I believe we've harnessed in along the Kalahari Copper Belt in such a safe jurisdiction like Botswana. When we get into discovery mode, the level of interest that's going to come our way would be astounding.
Okay. So you're saying you love the Bosnian asset, you love the
Yep.
Botswana asset, and you want to drill them both. We
Yes.
already discussed the possible timeline on Botswana. What about Bosnia? Do you drill there first? Do you drill them at the same time? What are your thoughts there?
I think the latter. I think we'd probably look at a summer program in Bosnia, just for simplicity. We're in no rush. I think that a lot of our core investment has been around Bosnia. I get tongue-tied over the two countries too, so I'm sure you do as well. But Botswana, we're just going into this final geophysics program that's going to establish the final decisions on what we drill. And look, again, I cannot implore how amazing that is to be able to do that through geophysics instead of drill testings. Generally, in all the assets I've been involved with, it's always an iterative program where you generally utilize drilling to hone in on your final target zones. We will be doing that in a much smaller space because of the geophysics that are ahead of us. Now in in Bosnia, see, I did tongue tie myself. In Bosnia, it's a whole different thing again, because when you've got mineralization exposed at surface, you've got historic intercepts that we don't have, the historic core from, but we know where they were drilled. We have really good defined targets already. What you do want to do is, when you go into a program like that in Bosnia, is you want to drill with the intent of creating continuity to that drilling. So you want to create that deposit along. I think in Botswana, what we're going to do is, with the initial drill program, is proof concept, show that we have the same mineral system, the same endowment, from a enrichment perspective, same kind of potential endowment of copper mineralization, and that alone, proving the model yeah, it will have a really serious impact on the company.
And my final question is, you also have assets in Australia. I know you
Yes.
you talked about disposing of those assets, and I suspect now that the price of gold is higher, maybe there's more interest for that. But can you talk about that?
Yeah, there's a lot of interest in Australia for that style of mineralization of gold. And it's not disposing. The word we use is divesting. It's divesting because we as shareholders will still have an interest in those assets as we sell them off. So we've had a lot of interested parties in quite a serious gold mineral project endowment in Victoria, Australia. There's the simplicity of drilling those and establishing large deposits is quite a expensive and massive undertaking. And that's why we did make that decision a couple of years ago to start looking for tier one copper asset, which we've managed to secure. But yeah, we have a lot of interest in our Australian portfolio, and just stand by. I think there'll be some upcoming news, hopefully in the coming days, weeks, and months, that we'll have people interested in taking those on.
But would you more likely receive maybe shares for those assets in another company, or cash, or a combination of both? What can people expect?
Generally a combination of both. Not a huge amount of cash, because again, those projects do take a large amount of capital investment to explore. You are exploring by drill in those environments. You're following mineralization that's quite broken up. You're looking for pods of gold, and everyone's looking for the next monster deposit. But yeah, that's an entirely different undertaking to what we're now entering into in the base metal, and copper and silver endowments we have up in the northern and southern hemisphere.
Do you have any final thoughts that you want to leave my listeners with?
I do. I just want to let you know that we're massively excited. I mean, look, it's easy to imply that, but we're really excited with what we've done and achieved through last year to get to a point now where we are ready to go. We're ready to drill. We're ready to create a lot of news flow, and we're ready for discovery.
All right. Well, thank you very much for giving us an update.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you, Mariusz.